Welcome to the Best of Beaver County, presented by St. Barnabas, a weekly segment dedicated to putting the focus on the amazing things and the amazing people behind them in Beaver County. The Best of Beaver County is sponsored by and content is provided by St. Barnabas. The show airs every Thursday from 11 to 11:30 on WBBP, WMBA, 99.3 FM, and Facebook Live. Now, with no further ado, let's welcome host Mike Romigh to introduce today's program.
Good morning and welcome to the Best of Beaver County radio show on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. I'm Mike Romigh. I want to remind you that since 1900, St. Barnabas has been focused on increasing the quality of life by caring for people in southwest Pennsylvania. Today in Allegheny, Beaver, and Butler counties, we offer a full continuum of care for our residents, patients, and retirement community family. The St. Barnabas Health System has developed into a visionary leader in the healthcare industry through compassionate and quality care, offering an array of unparalleled health services from skilled nursing to extensive memory care activities and programs. Additionally, the medical center has world-class doctor and dentistry teams where patients can receive a full range of services under one roof that also include rehabilitation, home health and home care, hospice care, and palliative care. In building upon its heritage, St. Barnabas continues to reach those in need and live out its mission through individual and institutional services that promote the health, education, and social needs of others. Men and women are invited to join in the work of Christian caring, healing, and teaching as we bear witness to our founder's reminder, God is able. Today is Firefighter Appreciation Day. Local fire departments faced with trying to maintain volunteer levels, training, the purchase of equipment, acceptable response times to emergencies, and the wearing of many other hats regarding our safety. Brian Hanie is a Brighton Township firefighter, just newly full-time firefighter in Brighton Township. Good morning and welcome, Brian.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Good to have you here. We appreciate everything that the firefighters do. And from a young age, an early age, and I see this marked in here, and I think, I have grandchildren. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. And they love fire trucks.
Yes.
My 2-year-old, I have videos on the computer at home of parades from Christmas, and he's not quite saying a lot of words yet, but when he wants to see those videos, he goes, wee, 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 wee. And that's how I know I got to go put on the video of the fire trucks. Is that something that, when you're a young kid, that you always have, you go to the parade, you see all this stuff, and you think that's something that I'd like to do?
Yeah, that's one of my good memories from childhood and being younger, is going to all the parades, whether it be memorial parades, 4th of July parades, and seeing the fire trucks. It's always exciting, the sirens and lights at the end of all the parades. And then another fond memory is seeing Santa being driven around on all the fire trucks. I grew up in Rochester, and it was one of the fond memories, something to look forward to every year.
Yeah,
is seeing that Santa being driven around on the fire truck.
You have to wait for the whole parade until the last fire truck, and that's where the jolly old elf is coming in.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Very good, and it does. And in every parade, the fire trucks are a big part of them nowadays, and it's not cheap to pull those fire trucks out of the garage to run these parades.
No. With the fuel prices increasing, it's becoming more difficult for the fire departments in the community, to attend those events.
Mm-hmm. What about you grew up in Rochester?
I was there until about the age of 7 or 6, and then we moved to Green Township. Okay,
but every town has their own fire department, volunteers mainly, in so many of our towns, and that's getting more difficult to cover all the hours of it. But was there anybody in the department when you go to school and they take you on a field trip to the fire department, any of those times where you said, oh, that's pretty cool, I'd like to wear that uniform?
Yeah, growing up I always wanted to be a veterinarian, and then which was interesting. Mm-hmm. And then attended college, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Went to school for nursing, and then kind of after I graduated, I was a volunteer firefighter. I started in 2002 with Hookstown Volunteer Fire Department. So I was, started 21 years ago. And so doing the work through the volunteer department, it kind of, this was a calling.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until recently, approximately like 2018, that I decided to pursue the career and kind of pursue the passion that I want to do. You got to follow what makes you happy.
Well, it's pretty interesting because just what you said here, it looks like from a very young age, you had the mindset and the empathy that you wanted to care for things, whether it was trying to get cats out of trees or helping in the form of a nurse. So you have that in your background, and it seems almost like a natural progression to go into the firefighting.
And the firefighting career, you need those aspects part of your life to make you successful. You need that empathy, dedication to the community, and serving others.
I don't want to let this slide by. Did you ever have to save a cat out of a tree?
Yeah, so that's what the two notable ones. Well, I've saved multiple cats out of trees with ladders, but the cats, for some reason, they don't want to be rescued out of trees. So it's always a sketchy situation trying to get cats out of trees. But I've had a few cats stuck in artificial trees in the home.
Oh no!
So they get stuck in the wiring. So be mindful with your artificial trees and cats.
That's kind of like Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
with a squirrel got stuck in the tree.
Another notable incident was there was a goat that was stuck in a tree. It was like a Y in a tree, and there was a goat stuck in between the Y. And then the funny part is for hours the goat couldn't get out, so the fire department was called. And as soon as the chainsaw got fired up, the goat miraculously got out of the tree.
Didn't want any part of that.
He saw somebody walking towards him with a chainsaw, and that freed the goat.
That's interesting. So what's it like when you're at the firehouse and a call comes in and you hear that it's another cat in a tree or a goat in a tree? How do you respond to that? Oh no, here we go again. It's kind of like the high rises that they have in town here when we see the fire trucks roll down the street with their lights on and find out that somebody burnt the toast.
Yeah. So, each call we keep at the back of our minds, something dangerous could be occurring. So our safety is the most of all, and the public safety. So we got to keep that mindset. And, a firefighting career it's dynamic. What we do is extremely dynamic. It's constantly changing. Everything could be fine at one point, and then a minute later, disaster can strike.
Sure.
And so we have to be constantly prepared with that through training, and not getting tunnel vision and thinking, this is just the same call we've always done, hundreds of times. We always have to treat each call separately, think of the hazards that could potentially happen and handle those accordingly.
Yeah, and I suppose helping people with their family pets ingratiates you to the community.
Yeah.
Those family members must love it when you're finally able to get Fluffy down out of the tree.
This is correct, yeah.
Yeah, little kids standing around and they're crying, and there you go, you're a hero.
Yes, that's correct.
Very good. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges that come along with it, because as I mentioned in the introduction, staffing is a big part of it, especially for volunteer fire departments, because perhaps it's just it doesn't have the appeal that it once did. What's happening?
So there's been a dramatic decrease in firefighters nationally and then locally and through the state. It's almost been reduced in half, places 75% decrease. And you look at back when a lot of the fire departments were created, the volunteer departments. It was just like Brighton Township. It was a group of farmers in the community. They saw a need back in 1938 and decided to come together to provide a service for the community. And so, you look at the mills, and everyone was working shift work. So there was 3 shifts. People were home. They created these clubs. So you had an influx of people able to respond, all 3 shifts essentially. With the change in work habits, people doing different careers, 2 family incomes needed nowadays. It's a lot harder for individuals to step away from their family time to volunteer.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure budgetary issues have a lot to do with that as well.
Yes.
Because you have to, those trucks aren't cheap.
No, they're not. We're rising costs even with the past couple years, like the cost manufacturing goods, fuel, equipment, it's almost doubled.
Yeah.
We just purchased a new squad truck to replace our aging truck to respond to medical calls with up-to-date equipment. lighting and something we could use for the future. Our original price quote was in the 80,000 range, and then with all the increase in costs, same truck 2 years later, $140,000.
Yeah. And the community is expanding. A lot of people, when we go up to Brighton Township, we might see Tuscaroras or Dutch Ridge Road, and so we don't see the intricacies of how the township is laid out. Covering a lot of territory up there, aren't you?
Yes, it's approximately 20 square miles. Mm-hmm. So it's a big area. It's covered by 3 stations. The main station off of Grange Road is the one that is staffed 24 hours a day.
Okay. Yeah, and then plus you have to respond, I would suppose, to maybe Ohioville, Vanport, help out Beaver.
Yeah, that's correct. We've responded to multiple, other municipalities: Ohioville, Beaver, Vanport, Industry, Chippewa.
Yeah. So back to the farmers' days, when the farmers in Brighton Township used to be their own fire department, times have changed. Equipment has changed. Tell us, how do you keep pace with the changes that have been going on since those early days? Because the type of fires and the type of emergencies continue to evolve as well, and you have to know how to respond to those.
Yeah, like I said before, with how it's a dynamic field, is we have to change our ways and adapt to the situation at hand. Now we're coming upon the age of electric vehicles, battery-powered tools, and it's a new hazard that we face, and we have to learn to adapt. We adapt through training, and preparedness is the big key thing.
One of the things we saw most recently was the train derailment in East Palestine, and how to fight that fire and the chemicals that were released by the train derailment, because unbeknownst to the public, there are certain things that you can't put water or foam on, or it would exacerbate the problem.
Yeah, that's correct. And it comes down to training and preparedness. Just like you need to be prepared in your home with your fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, CO meters, and things like that. Us as firefighters have to be prepared and receive training to handle those types of situations. Every firefighter is expected to receive hazardous materials operations training. We're able to kind of recognize and facilitate some type of threat mitigation with that.
And in terms of the type of equipment that you have to use and to keep pace with it, again, we go back to the cost involvement, and if something new comes out, you want to do the best to protect the citizens in your locale. So who do you turn to in those times? State representatives, local politicians, and borough council members, things like that?
Yeah, so we operate on a budget through the department. We budget items and purchase throughout the year. But also for any special funding we receive, we apply for state grants and also federal grants. So we've been very lucky at Brighton Township. Recently we received a federal grant to provide a particulate filter system in the stations to reduce cancer risk. And then we also received a grant for staffing. So we are now able to essentially pay the volunteer staff a per diem rate if they work alongside our part-time members for 8 hours a shift.
Okay. So that's another way of appealing to people to come out. I know from experience that Brighton Township has one of the best fish fries in the county. And back in the days when you're talking about fish fries and ways to raise money, there's only so far that can go. You can only sell so many fish dinners in order to help support, but that is also a vital part of it.
Yeah, and unfortunately we do not do the fish dinners anymore.
Crushed.
And that's, it was good. And that's just due to volunteers.
Yeah.
Like, it's the lack of volunteers. And Brighton Township, at the municipal level, noticed, there's a problem occurring. We don't have these volunteers. And they were very proactive in developing a plan for the future and implementing that plan. So the development and implementation, provide the staffing, provide that service to the communities, for the safety of the communities in their best interest.
And what do you think would be the best advertisement for fire departments to put out there to try and encourage people, whether they're going to be firefighters or whether they want to be volunteers and help out around not only the firehouse, but also the municipal building or the auxiliary building?
Yeah, get out and volunteer. We've seen, with any organization, if you look at anything, scouting, 4-H, any organization within the county that focuses on volunteering, they've seen a dramatic decrease in volunteers. And so, just the emphasis of getting out and volunteering somewhere, instilling that upon, the younger generation. It's the best for society. Get out, learn a skill. It's a good resume booster. But on the fire department side, volunteer departments act as a business, and they need multiple people. If you don't want to fight a fire, you still could be used in a volunteer fire service. There's medical. It's a good way to get started. If you want to pursue a career in medicine or any medical-related career, you can get trained as an EMT. And then pursue your career that way.
When we first began this conversation with Brian Hanie from the Brighton Township Fire Department, he told us of all the different things he's done. And firefighters always nowadays wear more than one hat. We're going to talk about that and more during our show this morning as we talk about National Firefighter Appreciation Day on the Best of Beaver County Radio show on Beaver County Radio on St. Barnabas Radio Network. Of the many things that make St. Barnabas Health System apart from the ordinary is an appreciation for their employees, an act that does not go unnoticed. Let's learn more about what this means from one of their employees.
Hi, my name's Susan Elleteri. I'm a registered nurse at St. Barnabas. Our team is responsible for the excellent care of our residents. Tending to their specific needs is very important. We pursue compassionate care, hard work, and kindness, and it is an extremely rewarding career, and I'm very grateful to have nursing as a career. It's extremely rewarding. We can acknowledge the goodness in our life, and I do believe that.
Find out about the exceptional career opportunities St. Barnabas has to offer by visiting stbarnabashealthsystem.com/careers for more information or by calling 724-444-JOBS. That's 724-444-5627. Find out why St. Barnabas is apart from the ordinary. Best of Beaver County Radio show on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. I'm Mike Romigh, and we're speaking with our guest during National Firefighter Appreciation Day. His name is Brian Hanie. He's a firefighter and an EMS technician. He works in the Brighton Township Fire Department, and we've been talking about a lot of the challenges with fire departments nowadays and the ability to wear multiple hats. Because I used to know firefighters, their job was maybe they drive the ladder truck, maybe they drive the pumper truck, maybe they were the ones who uncorked the fire hydrants, and so you had this whole team of people that acted accordingly. They knew what they had to do, their responsibilities. With such low employment and volunteers in the firefighting business, you guys got to do everything.
Yeah, that's one part of the job that we have to be trained to handle everything. We're an all hazards approach to an emergency scene, so we're responsible for hazmat incidents, medical calls, structural fires, car accidents, rescues. So we have to be adaptable and have the appropriate training to respond to those incidents.
And so when you're talking about training, there's something different going into responding to a car accident, more so than there is maybe a chemical fire.
True.
It's out there. And with the industry as it is in our county anymore, always new businesses and new industries coming in. We can take the Shell plant as an example, but there are others. And Brighton Township, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys cover a part of 376, don't you?
Yeah, that's correct. We share kind of the northern part of 376 with Chippewa Township.
And so you have to be aware of all those things going on. Some people might sit at home with the radio on and they can hear the calls and who's responding to the calls, but that's got to be kind of unnerving sometimes.
It is, and then multiple things are transported along the roadways, and so it's amazing to once you know what's actually being transported via truck is surprising.
Do you want to surprise us with some of it? Because we found out about the train and what it was carrying. Now we've got these big tanker trucks that are rolling through our areas, and we have no clue. It's not milk.
No, but milk is actually technically considered a hazardous material.
Okay.
If it spills in a stream,
If you have lactose intolerance.
Yeah, lactose intolerant. But in the right quantity, it takes oxygen away from the water, and then will kill fish. So.
Okay, and so that all goes through training, and that all costs money. Can you think about what was one of the more challenging calls that you've ever had?
One of the most challenging calls that recently it was a few years ago. There was a fire in one of the power plants down in Shippingport, and what brought this call to mind was the amount of agencies that responded to this type of call. It was pretty much every department within the county responded, and we all worked together pretty effectively. And that's due to training. The training we receive, the expectations that the department may be volunteer, but they have to kind of have that level of professionalism. And then, because it's what the community and what the end user, whoever calls 911, their expectation is having a professional department arrive. And that's one of the key things that we need to focus on, as a service as a whole, is maintaining those professional standards, because it's what our community expects of us.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that you say that, because one would think that, it's happening in Shippingport, we don't have to respond to that, we can let it alone. But you don't. Even though it's farther away, you still get in the trucks and you respond because do they ask for backup?
Yeah, that's typically how it's, they can request for backup, and then we have a box alarm system set up within this county. So as, the scene progresses or gets worse, you can add additional box alarms, they call it, and then it'll give you a whole nother set of apparatus or response from different stations. Now,
it's interesting because you said box, and I'm sure it's totally different than 50 years ago when I was a kid growing up in town here, and if there was a fire on the next block, you'd run and you pull the fire alarm on the box, on the telephone pole.
That's what a lot of our slogans and what we use in the firefighting service is derived from the history and what we use. And the plug used to be when they used to have wooden water lines, we call hydrants plugs. And then that's when they used to drill in the wooden water lines and then insert a plug and fill it up with dirt. And so they would note where the plug locations were, dig a hole, and then be able to tap their hose into the wooden plug. So we use a lot of our history in our common terminology today.
That is an interesting history lesson about it. And in Brighton Township, you're in a rural community. Does it ever concern anybody out there that maybe you don't have enough access to water? Because again, in town we have fire hydrants, and a lot of places have fire hydrants, but you've got a lot of roadway out there, a lot of acreage to cover.
Yeah, we have a good water system, good municipal system. The majority of our township is covered by hydrants, so we are very fortunate to have a very good water system within the township. And then for the unhydrated areas, we do have plans in place. We have a specialized truck. It's called a tanker. It has 3,000 gallons of water that we can bring with us. And then using mutual aid departments, we can use other tankers as well to respond.
Okay. So you always have to make sure that tanker is filled.
Yes, that's
when
correct.
you go out on something. So the idea back in the day, whenever a lot of the people up there had well water, it was one of the reasons why you have to switch and get more lines in because of perhaps fire hazards and response time.
Yeah. So with using the water tankers, you're going to have that response time. Because the tanker has to drop water and then go and refill. So you're looking, depending where water sites are, you're looking at 15 minutes. And it's a big math problem. We got to be good at math, interestingly enough. And so the fire takes so much water to put out, so many gallons per minute. We need that many gallons a minute available. So depending on how many tankers we have to do some math and figure out how many trucks we need to respond.
Wow. So you have to, somebody on the team somebody on the crew has to know algebra, how to break see, that's why I never became a firefighter.
Yeah, trigonometry, algebra, we do it all.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Typing's the big part.
Show up.
The skills from high school are coming back.
Show up with a hose and put out the fire. That's all you need to know. So inquiring minds want to know, you're up in Brighton Township and other townships around the area. We have big water towers, those big blue water towers up there that people will sometimes spray paint their names on.
Yes.
Do you get water from them?
So those are working as a storage capacity.
Okay.
So they kind of they provide a static pressure for the system, and they also provide our water storage.
Yeah. How do you get the water up there?
It is pumped.
It's pumped. You have to have
pump through the water lines. Yeah.
You have to have a good plug on the end of it,
Yep.
so you don't let it all go out. And nowadays, where you probably drive through the countryside a lot, and you see people with solar panels in their yards and on their roofs. How does the fire department respond to those sort of things?
So before response, there's training. There's specialized training to handle those type of solar panels. We like to, provide that training, so we're apt to be able to handle that situation. But it brings different hazards, and then the electric vehicles coming into play. With those batteries, those large lithium batteries, they can potentially take 12 to 20,000 gallons of water to put out effectively.
Whoa.
Over in Europe, they found that they would just lower the entire car in a shipping container full of water, and that would extinguish the fire eventually.
Do you have a direct line to Elon Musk? Or
Yeah, that was
like that.
So that's the hazard, and we have to figure out ways to, mitigate that hazard. And technology kind of advances with the technology, and they came up with different nozzles, different approaches, training techniques, and tactics.
Because they will burn for a long time.
They will.
Those
Yes.
batteries. And you're dealing with batteries, and I don't know if it's different batteries, electrical batteries, obviously, because they have to be charged. And then you might have some charging stations out in the township as well. So you have to know about all those things, because if your battery on your lawnmower or something like that goes out or causes a problem, sparking or something, that's a lot different than having the batteries in the car.
Yeah, what they're finding is the chargers that are being kept plugged in once the battery is fully charged that's where the problem is being encountered, where they're overheating and causing fires.
So do municipalities, townships, do you have to approve of whether or not to have charging stations come into the...
That's all dependent on different municipal codes, and every municipality is different with their ordinances and their own codes that they develop.
Yeah, very good. We are talking with Brian Hanie with the Brighton Township Fire Department, and today is Firefighters Appreciation Day. What do you think? Are there any ways to express appreciation to the firefighters? Because we'll sit back and we'll say, I don't want to do that job, let somebody else do it. But you're going to need a support staff. So what is a way to show appreciation for firefighters?
Just a simple thank you. We don't get into this job to receive praise or accolades. We get into because we enjoy working with the community. We enjoy providing a service and helping people. So that's a thank you enough. But oftentimes, just be courteous. Late at night, we got woken up. There's volunteers that came in from their family in the middle of the night. Traffic accidents. Just be, alert, mindful, aware when you encounter an emergency scene. Don't drive through cones or road closed signs because, our safety depends on it. Just be alert, aware, and just offer courtesy out there when you encounter an emergency scene. We don't
hear about it often, but it does happen, and I'm talking about a firefighter's death, fighting a fire or going out in an emergency, maybe even having a heart attack. There's a way for the communities to remember fallen firefighters. Yeah,
that's tonight. You can leave your porch light on to remember all the lost firefighters and fallen firefighters.
So that's an important part. Does it have to be red, blue, or just have your porch light on?
Just simple, keep your porch light on to keep those in remembrance.
And always remember, now we're getting into the warmer weather season. Now we're doing weather forecasts where we tell the people that it's a fire hazard day because of the dryness of the grass, and so you have to be careful to make sure that your lawnmower is not backfiring, or that you're making sure you're putting out a fire and things like that. So you always have to be aware of your surroundings where there's a fire danger. Brian, we want to thank you for being with us
today. Thank you for having me.
It has certainly been informative. We thank you for all that you do and all the firefighters out in our community. Thank you for being a part of our communities, because you give a great sacrifice to help us stay safe in our communities. This has been the Best of Beaver County radio show on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. I'm Mike Romigh. Live healthy and stay safe.
When you think about retirement, what images come to mind? Why not let yourself imagine enjoying an exceptional retirement lifestyle at the Village at St. Barnabas in Gibsonia? Attainable luxury can become yours because the Village has no large upfront fees, and it's based on a simple annual no-risk contract. The only decision to make is when to move in. Call 724-443-0700 or click stbarnabashealthsystem.com.
Thank you for listening to the Best of Beaver County. St. Barnabas is pleased to have provided content and sponsorship for the program. Tune in this Sunday at 11:30 for an encore presentation of today's program on Beaver County Radio. And next Thursday at 11 for another edition of the Best of Beaver County on WBVP, WMBA, and 99.3 FM.